So the Pac-12 has called it quits, apparently, with the Mountain West after this season. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be any Mountain West teams on the schedule next year. What does it actually mean? Couple of things to know here. First, the scheduling alliance between Oregon State and Washington State, the Pac-12, which is the label they play under, there won't be a conference championship game, and the Mountain West was agreed upon for this year and had a mutual option for next year. And reportedly, the sides are too far apart. And there are a couple of different hiccups there. One of them is that there are athletic directors in the Mountain West who look at these games and go, we're not going to beat Washington State, or we're not going to beat Oregon State. They're better programs than us, especially in the recency with which they were just playing in a fully loaded Pac-12 and the number of players they had on their roster who can compete at that sort of level. So we don't want to have another loss in there. That's just one factor. I'm sure there were others as well. The good news for the Pac-12 is they have an arrangement with the CW to broadcast their home television games. And we saw that over the weekend when Washington State throttled Portland State. John Mateer looked very, very good at the quarterback position. And Oregon State ran the ball all over against Idaho State, admittedly. But FCS teams are not always as easy to beat as they seem. If you know, you know what I'm referring to there. But I think Oregon State is still running in that particular game. Rumor has it. I haven't been to Corvallis to check it out, but that's what they're saying. Anyway, so they both get off to good starts. They're going to play 7 Mountain West teams this year. They will play each other. They will play a handful of Power 4 schools. But not having the alliance for 2025 throws into question what their schedules are actually going to be. So you're now in a situation where you're a de facto college football independent, which you sort of are now, but in this season, it feels like they're closer to being a member of the Mountain West than they are being an independent. But Oregon State and Washington State are going to have to build a schedule. Now, the good news is some games are already built into that schedule. You have the Civil War and the Apple Cup. So you have quality games that should, barring a change, take place once again in 2025, and that's a Power 4 school for both teams to have on the schedule, which is very important. They play each other. That's 2 games. They'll both play an FCS opponent. That's 3 games. So you need to find 9 games. And the strategy for Oregon State and Washington State should be incredibly simple. Find as many Power 4 games as you possibly can. You can throw in some Group of 5 matchups. I don't think that's the end of the world. You look at what Notre Dame puts together has put together for their 2024 schedule. They've got 8 Power 4 opponents. They've got USC. They've got Texas A&M. They have a bunch of ACC teams. They have Purdue in there as well. They've got Louisville. And then they have 4 Group of 5 teams. So if you're Oregon State and Washington State, you know at the very least to put together the best schedule possible, having, let's say, 3 Group of 5 matchups on there, whoever those G5s are, is not going to tank your schedule. So if you put 3 Group of 5 games on there, in addition to the 3 games you already have on that schedule, suddenly you're at 6 games and you need to find 6 more. And the goal should be to play the best teams you can, have the most visibility possible, and build the strongest resume that you possibly can accumulate. So is that an easy thing to do? No, because a lot of college football scheduling, which I will, from now until the end of time, I might make an amendment to what's going to be put on my gravestone. Number 1 is President's Vote on Realignment, but right underneath it, college football scheduling is broken unless it gets fixed by the time I die, in which case we can leave that part off of there. But college football scheduling not being done on an annual basis hurts the sport. It hurts fans. It hurts teams. It hurts G5 schools. It's not good for anybody, but it's how we do it anyway. So the availability of Power 4 games might be a fleeting factor. I would start, if I were Oregon State and Washington State, with former Pac-12 schools. Oregon State has got Cal on the docket this year. Maybe you have a return game there. Maybe you call Stanford. Maybe you call UCLA, because UCLA, what do you know? They're in for a tough year after they scrape by Hawaii. At least that's how it looks at the outset. Ethan Garbers threw an interception over his head. I'm not kidding. That's a real thing that happened in a football game. UCLA's 1-0. I don't know how many more games they win the rest of the year. My prediction is 3, but I think 2 is more likely than 4. So for the Bruins, maybe they'd want to put a game on the schedule that they feel is more winnable than teams that are going to play in the Big Ten or whoever their non-conference slate is. Maybe one of the Arizona schools has got an opening. I don't know. You have to look at what the athletic departments have set, what games they're willing to move, and everything like that. I know, for instance, that BYU currently has an FCS opponent on their schedule for next year, but they're going to reshuffle that game around. Maybe Oregon State or Washington State reached out and said, hey, we want to play this game. Maybe, think about this, Texas Tech was supposed to go to Oregon this year. They're going to Washington State instead so that Oregon can play Oregon State. Maybe Washington State gives Texas Tech a return game. They're going to play in Pullman this weekend. It should be an incredibly fun and competitive football game because Texas Tech unexpectedly struggled with Abilene Christian out of the United Athletic Conference. And I'm the voice of the Southern Utah Thunderbirds. Shout out to UAC, but what the heck was happening there, Texas Tech? 52-51? My goodness, that was not something I expected to see. 52 points, yes, but 51, whoof. Got to make some defensive adjustments over there. But maybe you give them a return game to Lubbock. You find whatever possibility is available to you. You put together the best schedule you can. You have the best year you can. And then going into 2026, you have to then make a decision. Are we joining another conference or are we putting together a new look Pac-12? And putting together a schedule should be predicated upon demonstrating to the rest of the country that this league, with us as a part of it, is going to give you, whoever you are, G5 teams they're talking to that they want to join the league, like Boise State, Tulane, Fresno, UNLV, whoever. You want to be with us because look at what we're capable of. Look at what our brands bring to the table. Look at the television deal that we have. And can we piggyback on the Mountain West's expiring TV contract and pick up Fox or CBS Sports as a television partner as well? That's where their heads have to be. So there are no immediate plans. And for anyone who sees this and goes, oh my gosh, they're going to join the Big 12 or the ACC, don't get your hopes up. Do not get your hopes up. Remember, Clemson and Florida State are going to be playing in the ACC in 2025. That deadline passed in August. So they're going to be members of that conference. And they might be looking at how this season plays out and thinking to themselves, do we really want to join the SEC or the Big Ten? Because, boy, they don't look ready for it right now. Florida State is not getting by Boston College and Georgia Tech. Clemson just played the best in the SEC and put up 3 points. So tread lightly. However, I still expect one day they'll try to get out, but that domino has to fall before the Pac-12 will make a decisive move. But the heat is on because you don't have as much time as you think to cobble together a schedule where you have Power 4 opponents, where you have the opportunity to play a team on national television or that is going to draw viewership or gain interest or make an impact if you win. That's what you have to be looking for here if you're Oregon State and Washington State. And I am more than a little fascinated to see how they play this out because I don't know what sort of games they could put together. But if you put together a good schedule and you get, let's say, 5 or 6 Power 4 teams on there, and then you guys have a combined record well over 500, certainly makes you more appealing if you're talking to a Boise State or Fresno State in the Mountain West and saying, you want to come play in a conference that is going to give you more high-quality, high-profile games to raise your college football playoff ranking and the likelihood that you can get to the playoff, that is where their conversations have to be centered around. How do we ensure playoff access for ourselves and for anyone who might want to join the league, unless they're finagling their way into another conference, which I don't see happening right now, but anything and everything, as always, is on the table.